Welcome to our webinar today, part of Scribe's marketing automation series. We've been working with a number of marketing automation providers as partners, and a lot of our partners and customers have been inquiring about this really exciting and interesting field of digital marketing. And today, we are in that series, we're joined by one of our very good partners, Silverpop, and Ellen Valentine from Silverpop. Ellen is got very deep experience in the area of digital marketing, has been doing it for 25 years, has been VP of marketing for a half a dozen technology companies, and has and today works towards with mentoring Silverpop clients and speaking at a number of customer events and on webinars like this. So we're really excited to have Ellen and her vast experience in digital marketing with us today. My name is Peter Chase. I'm Executive Vice President and founder of Scribe. I work very closely with a lot of our ISV partners to bring solutions to market to enable companies to leverage data better in their marketing endeavors and their marketing activities. And in fact, we've been working with Silverpop for a while, have dozens of joint customers together, and Ellen will actually be profiling one of those joint customers later on in her presentation. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We have enabled VoIP. If you cannot hear, though, you can certainly use the dial-in if that's not working for you. We have muted all the phone lines during the presentation. We have about 50 minutes of content. We are going to leave adequate time at the end to answer questions that you may have. If you have a question, please submit it in the questions feature within the GoToWebinar dialog. You can certainly ask your questions as you go along through the presentation, but we will take them at the end of the presentation. Again, I introduced Ellen and myself. Here's our contact information if you would like to reach out to us either on Twitter or via email. Again, Ellen is a product evangelist at Silverpop, and I run business development here at Scribe. The lion's share of the agenda today is going to be driven and presented by Ellen, and she's going to talk about how you can leverage data within and outside your organization to really drive more consistent, more personalized, more targeted marketing activities to both your customers and prospects, and really get a lot more out of your marketing dollar. In a lot of ways, it's a necessity today in this internet age to really drive a much more personalized and one-to-one marketing experience to be successful. And Ellen is going to give us a great prescription on how to address that in the presentation today. Before we get started with the presentation, for those that don't know who Scribe is, we're in the data integration business. We provide a cloud-based data integration platform that enables companies to integrate their business applications in a visual environment without having to write code. Really critical for marketing organizations because a lot of times they don't have the level of technical depth perhaps that maybe the ERP team does or something or the like. So being able to do things visually without having to be a programmer makes a lot of sense, especially as Ellen will share with us the explosion of data. Agility and speed is really critically important, and that's what we help bring to the table. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Ellen, and she is going to walk us through her presentation. And with that, Ellen, welcome today, and thank you for
thanks,
presenting.
Peter. Thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm totally impressed. Anyone that dialed in on a Monday to talk about data, that tells me that your decks are clear from the weekend and you're jumping right in this week. And I think this is a hot topic for a lot of people. When I'm out there talking to marketers and talking to a variety of different companies, presenting at conferences, data is a hot topic right now, and I believe that over the next couple of years, the companies that have the best actionable marketing database are going to be the winners in their industry segments. So I'm really pleased to be here to talk to you about this. And Peter, if there we go, we're off and running. So I pressed click a few too many times. So I just want to talk to you about who Silverpop is. For those of you that don't know, Silverpop is an industry-leading provider of digital marketing platforms, and we help marketers really transform the way they communicate with their customers and prospects. And we do that through a variety of different ways. You see here some of our pillars, our platform pillars, and we're going to really zoom in on that marketing database, and I'll talk a little bit about the interaction engine. If multi-channel or single identity, behavioral insights, those things are hot on your mind, then we could probably do that in a follow-up call. Data is a primary challenge for marketers. Lots of statistics out there about data. The one that I think is top of mind for me is the fact that 71% of CMOs feel unprepared for this data explosion, and with social coming on strong and digital coming on strong, we're really, as marketers, creating a lot more data than we ever have before. And the CMO's office is really feeling a little bit behind in that. We're just, you might have some of these digital technologies, but actually making use of the data in the technologies is a challenge. Lack of sharing is just a huge, huge issue. We all sort of come together in our weekly meetings with our brethren in IT and sales and customer support, and we all sort of talk about things, and then we kind of go back to our good old way of doing things. And we really need to shake things up and get some real hardcore collaboration going. And really the heart of collaborating across all these organizations is pulling all this data together and making it actionable across all of the organizations. So again, this is from Marketing ROI in the age of big data. Lack of sharing across the organization is an obstacle. So we want to help you there get going.
Ellen, a quick question for you on this point. We commissioned in January a State of Customer Data Integration survey. We surveyed almost 1,000 companies, and the data was very consistent with what you have here. We asked the question, how important was it to integrate your marketing automation platforms with your CRM? And we get a very high response, 70, 75%, as you would expect. But when we asked the follow-up question, how well or are you actually integrating those two systems well, the numbers came in between 20 and 28%. The high end were those that were using third-party systems integrators to assist them. Question for you, and with your experience in the marketing area as a former CMO, what's the underlying cause for that gap between, in your opinion, between desire and achievement there, do you think?
I think a big factor is executive awareness of what's possible when you have all of this data linked together in an actionable format. Let's face it, these projects are not free. They're not free in terms of resources. Oftentimes, folks need, people to help them or technology to help them make this happen. So it requires really the executives to be on board with what's possible and what the benefits are and how it all can really help them leverage what they're doing. And so I think that really comes first. And I talk about that in a lot of the places I speak, is the importance of getting your executives on board, giving them a briefing of what's possible, pulling in folks from IT and support, marketing and sales into those meetings so that you can really get everyone on the same page.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, again, that lack of sharing, that my little arrows there of really what's important here, and I think you'll get the slides at the end of this presentation, so you'll be able to share these hopefully with your management and really just have a good dialogue around these metrics. So what I want to do now is shift gears and talk about the power of behavioral and database marketing. And the way for me to really best do that is to really talk about a story. And when I meet with marketers, so many people are still batching and blasting. everyone's getting the same message. And my example that I'm going to give here is talking about selling boats. And, when I think of, buying a boat, I might think about one of those pontoon party boats. But Peter, you might think about a fishing boat. Somebody else might think about, some really, jet ski, go fast kinds of toys. So we all think about something different, and yet we all, are getting really these same standard messages, and we probably are, giving away a little bit more than we perhaps need to here. So I want to get everybody to move beyond batch and blast. But, and some people are doing this. They might be doing what I would call a segmented send, where they'll say, well, let's send one message to all of our Tennessee prospects, and we'll offer maybe 15% off on outboard motors. But then our Georgia boaters might get 15% off on navigation systems. So, a little bit better there, but it still is far short of really what you need. So I really encourage everyone to really buckle down and get serious about building a master database. And the richer your master database is, the better off you're going to be. So if I were selling boats, here are some of the things that I think are really important to capture. I'd want to know what boats does everyone own. I might assign them to a persona, a buyer persona, which I'll talk about in a minute, or assign them to a target segment. I also might want to know what shows they've visited in the last year. Maybe when did they, go to a marina last, and really important, how old is their boat? And these are all things that you can build over time with tools like progressive profiling and web forms. So, I think it's important for you to sit back, and this is a perfect time of year to be doing this. September, really, think about, as you hit, your planning cycle here for 2014, what are the data elements that are really important for you in order to drive success? So once you've got that database, that primary core database really mapped out, then start to look at, what are the behaviors that everyone is exhibiting, either in your email or in media or on your website. So the cool thing is with, at least with Silverpop marketing automation technology, is that these behaviors are automatically appended into your database. So, what are you doing on email? Are you opening? Are you clicking? What web pages have you visited? Have you downloaded any PDFs or watched any videos? These are all really, really critical behaviors that help you not only measure interaction and measure activity, but they also help you take action. And we'll walk through some examples about that. But capturing and appending those behaviors is really important. And then supplementing your database with related data. So that's where you look across the organization. You might have a product catalog that someone is maintaining. You might have within your customer group a database of what products everyone owns. You might want to look at current inventory. If I were selling boats, what's the point of really marketing the latest jet ski if I don't have any in inventory? So being smart about, really looking at and considering these additional elements is important. And then looking at the 5-day weather forecast, that's an external data feed. Other ones I've seen are interest rates. So there may be some external data out there that are important. And then finally, do you have a CRM system? Do you have, something that the sales teams are using to help manage their activities? It's important to pull all that information in so that you have a really comprehensive view of each and every prospect and customer.
Ellen, on that question of CRM systems, what I'd like to do is just get a sense from our audience today, what CRM systems they're using, if they are using CRM. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just push out a poll.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to see that as well.
So we're going to go ahead and launch that poll. So all the attendees should be receiving that poll, and in while that's being done, I will pass it back to you. We'll come back to that a little bit later in our
Good. Yeah, I'd love to know the answers to that. Of course, every time I see polling question, I feel like the Jeopardy theme song should be playing in the background. So maybe next time we can work on that. But yeah, there's a lot of different CRM systems out there, and these are just 4 that we've listed, but there's probably another 20 CRM systems out there, and it is important for everyone to to really look at that. And anyone who has a CRM system should be really seriously thinking about integrating their CRM system with their marketing automation and their email platforms. If they're not integrated, then you're really probably struggling to get buy-in with the sales organization and struggling to keep everything properly synchronized.
Yeah, and it looks like from our polling questions that we've heard from about 63%, and the leader right now is Salesforce, which I guess isn't a surprise. We had also Microsoft CRM in our poll that came in at 11%, and then Sugar and NetSuite, pretty small, 2%, and then as you mentioned, there's a lot of CRM systems out there, and we only had 5 available slots in our poll, and we've got 42% in the other category. But it looks like
okay, lots of others then.
Yeah, good. 68% of our viewers have responded that they are using a CRM system. So just thought that was interesting. I'll pass it back to you now. You can continue on.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Oh, I advanced your slide, sorry.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So, take that into account. But once you have this actionable database, then you can marry the actionable database with rule-based communication. So I've got a rule that I've designed out here and said, well, let's do a trade-in or upsell campaign. In order for us to really do a good job at that, let's design some rules. So maybe for this example, we want to look at everyone who's in the hot dogger segment. They visited the marina in the last year. They own a fast cigarette boat, and they just downloaded the PDF sheet of the Cigarette Speedy 2014 model. So we designed those rules, and then anyone that matches those rules, and Peter, if you want to pass control back to me for the keyboard, that would be great, because I want to show these people essentially what happens.
Why don't you try it, see if it works?
No, not yet.
Hold on.
No problem. So again, I start thinking about what rules are important for you when you want to communicate. And these are typically called triggered emails, where if someone matches a rule, I want to send out one piece of communication.
Try it now.
Yep.
Right now.
Nope, not having any luck. So if you want to advance to the next slide.
Yeah, sure.
So again, here's our rule. So anyone that matches that rule is going to get this email. Hi Sean, we have May specials and cigarette boat trade-ins, plus he have received the new 2014 models at the marina. Come in to test drive. These guys are fast. Congrats on the Broncos win, Steve. So if I were to look at that email, or if I were to receive that email, it pretty much looks like Steve sat down at his keyboard and typed this out to Sean. It looks very, very personalized. And that's kind of the oxymoron of marketing automation, is that, to get more personal, you really need to get more automated. And oh, by the way, if you're wondering, we have a field in the database of who's your favorite sports teams. And so anyone that matches that, so we had a match here. I don't know if the Broncos won this past Sunday, but I know that they won a couple Sundays ago. So when we sent this out, we had a rule that said, if the Broncos is your favorite sports teams, then insert that last sentence. So this is the power of rule-based communication. And Peter, I'm going to ask you to advance for me.
Can you do me one favor? Can you click on the screen first and then try advancing the slide? See if it's just context. Let's see if that works. If not, I'll continue to advance it.
Well, I think you're going to need to continue to advance. I'm
okay.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, no problem.
So in our example here, once you design, the power of all of this is that once you design that rule-based communications, then the automated program is going to wait for that rule to match, and then it will send the email out. So in our example here, we have a database size of 45,000 records. The email is going to be sent only when there's a match. So in our example, only 300 emails were sent. But the real power of this is that once that rule is established, you can set it and forget it, and the staff is really free to work on other projects. That's the real beauty of this. We have a customer, Disc Makers, and anybody that has a friend that plays guitar in a coffee shop has probably ordered CDs from Disc Makers. And they actually are using the Silverpop platform, and they're sending out quite a lot of correspondence. Well, Jesse Gray is their email manager, and he was really feeling like he was on the hamster wheel, just running toward the next send, the next send, the next template, the next list, and really working hard, but really not getting his head above water very much. Well, he sat down last December, because December was his slower month. He sat down last December, and he actually is now at the point where he has so much automated that he has 1 day a week free to work on other projects. And I'm sure that every one of you guys on the phone would love to have 1 day a week when you were free to work on other things.
Hey, Ellen, do you want to try it one more time?
Yeah, I know, Peter, you're not going to give up, but I still cannot advance.
One more time. There you go. Does that work?
Ah, magic. So let's look at another example here. John goes to your website. He signs up for your mailing list, so because he wants to see some specials. And then 3 months later, he watches this video. So again, you can design all sorts of triggered communications here. So the system is matching my email record with my behavior and automatically sending out this customized email. So that's the power of automation. You've got to have a great database. The better your database is, the more specific you're going to be, the more sophisticated your rules are. So now what I want to do is shift gears for just a few minutes here and talk about growing and improving your list, because this is one of my pet peeves. If you're not growing and improving your list, you're really just treading water. And I think most of us don't want to tread water. We want to, swim a few laps here. So get people to opt in, and this was from a study that we did with internet retailer, but 56% of companies hide their opt-in at the bottom. It's really not a very effective place, and probably for Tiffany's, you never get past looking at all this great jewelry to actually get down to the bottom, to that band at the bottom to actually sign up. So that really is not recommended. Pop-ups are fantastic, and actually just this past week we had one of our long-standing clients who had really wrestled with whether to do a pop-up or not, and they actually just took the plunge, and they had blockbuster results. This company, also Legacy Publishing, they published the Empowering Parents website. They too had a lot of internal dialogue about whether to do a pop-up or not, and in fact, they have achieved 400% increase in signups. So really take a look at that. I think it's really a really powerful thing. Once you do get people to opt in, gather some data. You saw in the previous slide, we asked about 8 questions about your child's situation. Don't ask for too much. Use progressive profiling and ask only for what you need. You can also use things like social sign-in to grow your database. A lot of folks think it's a lot easier to sign in using their Twitter account or their Facebook account instead of completing a form. And the cool thing is that if you offer social sign-in, once people do opt in, look at all the data that actually gets passed back to you as the marketer. If someone signs in with LinkedIn, you're going to get their address, their display name, their birthday. There's a lot of things that are actually going to be provided when someone does sign in socially. So it really is to your advantage to offer this as an option. So, we've talked about moving to this persistent master database. I wanted to put this into one pictorial slide here of how this is all going to look. And if you've got any contact lists out there, you really want to take the time to merge those into your master database. And then look at all the data across your organization, and then leverage folks like Scribe to help you with something like a CRM integration. It's really important that if any sales reps are making any updates down there in the CRM system, that they be reflected back into your marketing database or your marketing operations database so that it can be put to good use.
Hey, Ellen, quick question on that point relative to CRM. We've seen, 68% of our attendees indicated they were using a CRM. How do you, typically CRM is thought of in a lot of ways as that master customer database, and then you have your master marketing database. Any tips or ideas or thoughts on how to sort of negotiate the the interchange between two systems that want to be the master of data, and any thoughts there?
Well, that's the cool thing about having a proper integration between CRM and your master database, is that you define the rules of who's got the upper hand in terms of the data. So, if I update my master marketing database and you've done nothing with your record, well, then obviously I want to get that update that I've acquired through marketing over to CRM. So a good integration there helps you do that. You also really define those rules to say, well, if I update in CRM, that's going to have precedence over the marketing database for perhaps the address or additional contacts and things. So that's why I've got the CRM and kind of that special pink box there, and have a two-way arrow there between the systems. And it definitely is something that you need to take some care to set that up and get things properly mapped in.
Oh, thank you very much. That's good insight.
Good. So let's march along here and really review. When a lot of behaviors are captured, and when you have web tracking turned on, and this is not Google Analytics, it's not necessarily Omniture or some of the other analytics firms. This is actually behavioral web tracking. And when you come on board with Silverpop, you actually get a code that's embedded in your marketing automation platform. You copy that code and you install that on all of your different web pages. So very, very powerful. You definitely want to make sure that if you don't have a web tracking set up, that's one of your top action items here as you head into the fall. Another cool thing that is relatively new is actually looking at the power of universal behavior. So instead of the behaviors being things that you've actually created or your customers have actually, your prospects have actually done, this is where people are actually exhibiting behavior on different platforms or different environments, or they're doing things differently, and that individual behavior is then passed back into Silverpop. So I'll give you an example. Digby is an app. It's an application that allows you to embed into your mobile app location sensitivity. So you might have a store application or a national park travel application, and then I can, as a marketer, can design a geo fence around that location, and then anytime I cross into that location, I can actually push special offers to you in your mobile app. So again, very, very powerful. This is brand new, breaking ground to actually get you to think about, it's not just the data within the four walls of my enterprise, but it also is data that's out there that's happening in other systems, and being able to leverage that in your marketing automation platform. So if this is something that's of interest to you, then obviously we can get with you offline and talk about the power of all of this, and you see some of the other capabilities that are out there across those other app providers. Now what I want to do is talk about a story. And Netprospex is a joint client. This is a Scribe client. It's also a Silverpop client. And they've really undergone quite a transformation. And I think this is just a great data story. Their old website was all about their way and their data, and just really them boasting about what they had. And they decided they were going to really turn things on end, and they were going to build out personas. They were really understood their buyers, did some analysis, and figured out that they really have three different kinds of buyers. They have demand gen, they have data management, and they have sales leadership buyers. And by the way, Netprospex sells B2B data. They sell data appending projects, data cleansing projects in the B2B environment. They also figured out, as a result of doing their personas, that technology and non-technology buyers are very different. So they really wanted to be able to treat them differently. They had done a blockbuster job of creating a lot of new content, and they really needed to better put all that content to work. So one of the things that they did was they actually built a content framework. And you see here they aligned all of their content by each of the three personas. And then they also organized it by engagement, propensity, and decision. So the top of the funnel is making people aware that there's a real problem with B2B data quality. And then the propensity is really helping people that once they realize they have a problem, all the different ways that they can address that problem. And then decision is, okay, I realize I need to do something. Why should I do business with Netprospex? So you see there a really nice content framework. This is absolutely something I think all of us as marketers need to really tackle. So for my example here, I'm going to walk through the demand gen content flow and how this actually comes to life in digital marketing. First, virtually every one of the clients that are super successful with digital marketing does a really nice job of mapping out how everything's going to work, either in a spreadsheet or on a PowerPoint flowchart slide or in Visio, and these folks were no different. So you see here, we're going to come in as the demand gen person. We're going to offer up a segmentation workbook, and then we're going to progressively profile this person with gathering data, and that's what's in those purple boxes. And then what you see on the left-hand side is the content offer flow if they're a technology marketer, and what's on the right is if they are not a technology marketer. So let's see how this actually comes to life in their platform. So this is the new Netprospex website, and you see there grow, manage, prospect, partner, and trade. These are buttons that they actually will implicitly profile, implicitly decide what your profile is based on what buttons you click. So in our example here, grow, find targeted data, essentially once you click on that information, that actually is a hidden field, a hidden landing page that is recording a value in the database. So here, find targeted data is actually assigning you to content level 1, and it's assigning you to the demand gen persona type. So again, click on a button, it's recording values in the database. So on the right-hand side, you can start to see that, you know, with our color by numbers there, we really don't know much about Christina, but now because she's starting to click on the website, we can actually learn a bit more about her. And then this is the resource page for Netprospex, and you see here, this is the segmentation workbook. This is the first offer that we're actually making to Christina. And in order to get that workbook, she's going to need to tell us her email address, whether she's a B2B or B2C marketer, and whether she's in the technology industry or not. So we're going to progressively profile her as she's downloading the workbook. Now you see here that the cool thing about this is the resource page is dynamic. It actually changes based on the fact that we've learned that she's a demand gen person. If I would have clicked on the sales prospect button, then it would say sales resources here, and these offers would be different. So the rules that are being considered are the rules that are established based on the values in the database. So now we're going to go ahead and advance, and yes, we've learned that Christine is a B2B marketer and she is in the technology industry. Now another cool thing about this, the way this is architected, is if Christina does not come back to the website in a certain period of time, then an email is actually going to be pushed out with the next piece of content. So running in the background here, we have an automated program that is looking to see if there's been any activity in the resource center in the last few days. And if there hasn't, then we're going to automatically send out the 5 tips for technology marketing targeting. So again, we've got some rules that are being considered for that. There's our next offer, 5 tech marketing strategies. Every button is being recorded in the database, in the marketing database, so we know exactly what content she's consumed. You can imagine if you're a sales rep getting a new lead, and Christina's your new lead, you're going to be able to have a very high quality conversation with her based on knowing the fact that she's downloaded all of this good content. So super valuable and super informative for the sales rep. So you see here more progressive profiling going on. We're asking first name, last name, and title. So it's just a really nice way of really marketing to people on their own terms. You see here they've had tremendous increase in visit duration, double the number of pages being visited, 30% reduction in bounce rates, increase in conversion rates. So they are off and running with this brand new resource page at Netprospex. And I think it's a great story because it pulls together the power of data and content and technology and doing progressive profiling and good data capture.
You know, Ellen, it's a pretty impressive story. What's realistic for marketers, you know, on the phone here, in terms so they can achieve? There's a lot going on here with Netprospex.
There is a lot going on there, and you know, it is interesting with Netprospex. A lot of people look at that story and say, whoa, that is really sophisticated. I could never do that. I've got a small little marketing department. But you know what? The Netprospex team is a team of 3 people. So I'll come right back at you and say, you know, can you double down, because it really does not take, you know, a huge army of people to implement something. And I think one of the beauties is that resource page, it's only one resource page that's being deployed. You know, it makes things so much streamlined, and that's, you know, one place where all the action's happening. Really makes it easy to deploy and easy to maintain. So, you know, just coming back to the data piece, you can do some phenomenal things with a great data strategy. You can look at email behavior. You can look at your web analytics information. If you have a shopping cart, then you can take that into account. Looking at past purchase information, you know, what's happening socially, and then what are they doing on the blog or any other native pages. You know, start thinking about getting much more sophisticated in the data that you're considering and how you're actually putting it to use. And here, you know, it's not just in the rules that you're designing for when to communicate, but it's also what you communicate. So here in our example here, we've got Bill, 10% off all purchases this week for new executive club members. Well, Bill's not that fancy. That's just a nice little personalization. But we've actually got a rule here that if someone has spent more than $1,000 in a calendar year, then they're automatically a member of the new executive club. And then Bill happens to have purchased a lot of painting supplies. So we're actually sending out a picture that includes painting. It's not drafting supplies. It's not sculpture or bookmaking supplies. We're actually talking to Bill in his language. So there's a lot of powerful things that you can bring to bear. And we work with a lot of clients to really get this level of sophistication under their belts. And you know, a lot of typical marketers might get 15 to 20, 22% open rates. We see marketers are doing this level of sophistication, getting 50, 60, even 70% engagement rates with these sorts of programs. So, you know, just to kind of round out the bend here, I want to come back to the data piece because I think it's so important. And I would just ask you, you know, is your marketing database in the too hard pile? I think it's too easy for the days and weeks and months to slip on by, and you're not really tackling getting your marketing database to the point where it needs to be. Well, have you ever heard the expression, how do you eat an elephant? You know, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So, you know, really look holistically at what you're doing for your data strategy. What are you doing around CRM? Are you leveraging APIs to pull data across your organization into your marketing platform? You know, what are you doing with web forms and data collection? You know, perhaps establishing a data blueprint is a really good way to actually get down really what you need to do. So build a plan, and that plan is, you know, what's the data that we have? How are we going to use it? Where is it today? How can we actually pull it together? And then how can we leverage that with all the visitor data? And you might want to consider some Append services to help you improve, you know, what you have available to you and improve the overall quality. And then you need to develop a usage plan. So once you have that great database, how can you actually put it to use to customize and really enhance the user experience? And, you know, share some examples. Feel free to share the case studies in this slide. You really need to give everybody a clear picture of what's possible once this data plan is really put into action. So I think we're going to move to some questions here in a few minutes, so you may want to tee up your questions so that we can really get the ball rolling here. But I'm gonna, here close with my last slide. Some
Hey,
other recommendations.
Ellen, before you do that, a quick question for you, or a quick thought or comment on that. We see a lot of companies overwhelmed with the data. I've got so much data that this whole concept of big data. I've got so much data to deal with. How do I start? Where do I take my first bite? One of the things we count customers on is really work backwards from the high priority things that you want to be able to accomplish. So what types of things, what types of programs do you want to be able to execute, or actions do you want to drive, and then work back to the data that you need in order to do that. Not start with all the data and say, okay, how can I leverage it, but more, what are the things, what behaviors do I want to impact, and what data do I need to impact that behavior, and what's the ROI on that? Because then if you can start to prioritize some of this data based on its value and how much impact it can have on the business, it gets a lot easier to tackle that, especially if you need to build proof early on to step up your investment. So you can show, hey, we've been able to show this type of ROI because we narrowly focused on just this type of data. Imagine what we could do if we could step beyond that and do this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, Peter, I think those are some really good points. I think a lot of people try to boil the ocean and build this monolithic, amazing data integration plan to pull everything together, but honestly, people need some quick wins, don't they?
Yes.
Well, they really need some quick wins, and that really means, figuring out a use case and figuring out how you're actually going to put that data to action and put it into action, and then going and getting that data pulled into the fold, and then build the next use case. So I think that's the best way to establish, the eat it and bite at a time program is to really focus on those use cases.
Yeah, great.
Good. So I've got some other miscellaneous recommendations here, some of the things we've talked about, but add a marketing operations staff or a department or even an individual to your team. We did this at Silverpop, and it has helped us so much. And quite frankly, they are in meetings with IT more than anyone else. And it's really making sure that IT and marketing and sales are all on the same page. I actually have a staffing white paper if anybody wants to read more about the roles and responsibilities of a marketing operations staff. Please feel free to reach out to me. We've talked about having this executive vision. I think that cannot be overstated. And then we spent a lot of time talking about that data work plan and really defining the use cases, the milestones, the integration dates, and really what capabilities are possible once you've tied some of your key data in and integrated it in. So I think those are all things that you need to tackle. So again, I mentioned at the top of the hour, it's just a great time of year to be really buckling down, asking for budget, asking for headcount, asking for revenue or some expense dollars to help support some partners who really have the expertise to do these sorts of things. So those are some other recommendations that I do have for you in really on this great data journey. So, don't delay, start today. The elephants are stampeding along here, and you've got to really develop a plan so you don't get overrun with all this data.
Great. Ellen, we have a number of questions. We're going to go ahead and take those in a second. So I'm just going to go to this slide here. We are offering, I referenced earlier in the presentation, the State of Customer Data Integration Report, which is pretty fascinating to learn how your peer organizations are doing relative to data integration and what some of their challenges are. You can certainly receive that report by going to the link that's shown here on the screen, and we'll provide the full report to you. Again, it's about just under 1,000 customers, so it's a pretty wide survey of customers. And with that, we have a number of questions, and I'm going to fire away. Most of them are for you, Ellen, so if not all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of walk through some of the questions that we did get. one question is, how is the data automatically appended? I'm not sure exactly where it was in the presentation, but does that question make sense, Ellen?
Yeah, well, just to give you an example, it's kind of cool that the Netprospex story was part of this process. I think that every company needs to have a good append strategy, and what that is if I've only captured name and email address, and maybe I've captured title, but I don't have your physical mailing address, I don't have what state you're in, it's pretty hard to assign a rep to that account long term if I don't know that. So you may want to reach out to an append partner like a Netprospex or like a Fresh Address and see if there's some additional data can be appended into your file, into your master database. So you don't necessarily have to do your whole database. Maybe you do it a segment at a time. But append companies, append specialty firms can really help you really improve your overall coverage of fields in each and every record.
Yeah, and maybe this is a follow-up to that, but as same individual, do you have to have Silverpop landing pages to capture that information? Any thoughts or comments on that?
No, you don't. You don't. Silverpop landing pages are very popular with our existing customers because they don't have to have IT set up the landing page or the web form for them. It's a nice way for actually Silverpop hosts the page and allows a marketer to create the page or the web form very easily. But if you are actually just capturing that, using your own landing page or web form, yes, that data can get into your Silverpop marketing database.
Great. Here's another question. Do any companies use the types of things that you described today on the customer service side with the customer service department, and if so, how do they do that?
Yes, it's very powerful to use this on the customer service side. I think a lot of us as marketers, a lot of us are very, very focused on the pursuit of net new business, new prospects, people that are not doing business with your company, but yet, one of the biggest revenue opportunities is for, existing customers, and that means, doing a really good job of keeping your existing customers happy. So just to give you an example, if you've got a customer support system of some sort and you're keeping track of people that are calling into the support desk or the help desk, then you can trigger an email to go out. If you have the support data integrated in via an API, integrated into your master database, then you can actually design some rule-based communications like we talked about for the boat example, to say anyone who calls into the support desk, you can automatically trigger an email to go out. It's really a lovely way of doing things, and it really takes a lot of burden off of the support organization. Once it's set up, it can be, just happen automatically. There's also a ton of stuff that you can do for internal communications. If you've got a larger company and you do a lot of internal communications, you can have a database of all your employees. You can send out automated programs. For instance, we're in the season now for healthcare sign-up. You can initiate all the healthcare sign-ups through an automated program, and then you can design rules to say if they have not opened the email or they have not enrolled, then I want to send a wave 3 communication. So there's 2 examples of great ways that you can leverage marketing automation technology to really take action with other departments in the organization.
Great, great. Well, there's a couple of questions that are related, or at least they're related to pop-ups anyway. One question is on the long-term effect of pop-ups on unsubscribe, and the other question is related to any issues associated with data validation in pop-ups. Any thoughts on those 2 questions?
Good questions. I think that we're at a point. I think, first of all, everything needs to be tested, and you constantly need to be testing. So I think that we're at a point where, if you're providing compelling content in that popover, for instance, the legacy publishing, people are coming to that site because they have problems with their children. Well, if you're offering them a personalized parenting plan, then you're really talking to them and you're really offering something that's going to help them solve their problem. So people do not mind filling out that form. That's the popover. So I think that you really need to be offering something of very high value in that popover, and I think it needs to be very short and sweet. And you can do data validation. If I'm going to enter in an invalid email address and I'm not going to put in one that's correct, then you can validate that in the popover. So I would definitely, but if you don't ask too much, your chances are good that you're going to get at least a couple fields filled out and filled out properly.
Great, great. Here's a question. What if someone lives within that geofence? A question relates to ways to set rules that they only get X many offers per X time period, etc. Assume so, just want to confirm that you have that.
You can establish some governors within the automation program so that you are not over communicating with folks. So you can do that within the automation routine. The geofencing is really a powerful way of doing things, and I think that a lot of people, if they're taking the time to actually go into a retail location or go to a physical location, that's when they're most keenly interested in getting their offers, not necessarily when they are first waking up in the morning. So I think you've got a good chance of really getting some nice engagement when you're doing geo-based communications.
Great. I think one final question here, and then I think we're ready to wrap. It's about the end of our hour. Actually, I got two questions. Let's see if we can squeeze it in. You mentioned open rates of up to 70% with the high personalization. Do you see differences in B2B versus B2C?
I have B2C customers have been getting just that high of a result. I think a lot of people think that the nice high response rates are only the luxury that a B2B marketer can afford or can achieve, but I actually do have clients that are B2C that are getting response rates up in that area by doing highly personalized, data-driven, rule-based communications.
Great, great. And then one last one, how can I use customer responses to open-ended questions that have generated a lot of text? So now you're looking at more textual or free-form data. How do you leverage that?
I don't know that I have an answer off the top of my head. I'm sure that if I had one of my tech folks here on the phone with me, they might be able to chip in with some comments, but I think you're better off asking for multiple choice or drop downs or radio buttons and doing your best to try to get people to pick something so that you do have a data field that is consistent across your entire database. I think we're just getting at the point where we're able to take action on some unstructured data. If you've asked this question, you've got a specific use case, I would ask you to send an email to evalentine at silverpop.com, and I'll see if I can get you a proper answer. But I think best practice would be to try your best to try to get folks to make some sort of a selection via drop down or radio button or something of that nature so that you can get a set field established.
Geez, we were not going to be able to stop you today from the audience, but maybe we half did at the end now.
Yeah, the last one.
Always the last one. One last thing, a couple of folks have asked for a copy of the marketing operations staff paper and considerations that you referenced.
Okay.
Is that something that if we captured these emails or if anybody else wanted it, they could send in on the questions that we could provide to them, Ellen?
Absolutely. I'll get that to you, Peter. You can probably put that on your scribesoft.com Silverpop web page there.
We will absolutely do that. And that is great. So we'll put it on that page, and people will have access to it in the follow-up email from this webinar today. So no worries if you're looking for it. We'll make sure you get it. Appreciate your time today, Ellen. This was fantastic.
Thanks everybody for setting aside your Monday afternoon to be with us for an hour. We really appreciate it.
Great, great. And with that, we're going to let people get back to their day. So thank you for attending, everybody. Again, thank you very much, Ellen, and have a great week.
Thank you.